Hi, it's Winton Churchill with the Barefoot Consultants, and I'd like to welcome you to our Happy New Year edition of our Freelance Friday for baby boomers. Today, we're going to be talking about uh, sort of my predictions on the 5 things that will impact baby boomers the most, actually, all in a positive way in the coming year. As we come out of a crazy election and come out of a pandemic and that kind of thing. Lots of things work to be done. So we'll have lots of good stuff. Uh, for those of you listening to the playback, we want to welcome you as well. We always leave the chat window open and check it periodically. So if you have a question, you can pop it in there, and we're happy to get in there and answer those questions. And I always like to know where you're calling in from. So if you're in the chat window or if you can access Messenger from the system you're on, if you could just type in there and tell me where you're calling in from, that would be great. Always good to see new folks on the call. And it's also quite amazing that tendency of 80 to 90% of our folks are listening to the call after we record it. So fairly common in this world is in the marketing world, it's called time shifting. We're able to do something live and then have it be of benefit to those of you that are not able to participate live. And so we take a number of pains to make all that work. So welcome. So let's talk about some of the big factors that are going to be impacting us. We have a new election now, and as of today, an inaugurations date. Well, I guess for a while it's been set for the 20th. And it looks like all that's going to happen. So there you go. There's going to be new economic policies. And one of the things that many people are fearful of is, if your candidate didn't get in, or if your candidate did get in, as a business person, I've always seen change as where the opportunity is. If things stay the same, there is not as much opportunity as much as there is when things change. And that's not to endorse one political strategy or another, but just say anytime there's changes in economic policies, in the organization or emphasis in different parts of government, that really drives a lot of smaller businesses whose business is tied to the government. So we see a lot of that representing things that businesses will be adapting to and adjusting to. And for the most part, right now, many businesses, sadly, I think the unemployment rates were up a little bit just recently, as you might expect. There's kind of a seasonal drop off after the Christmas selling season. Normally, a lot of the retail establishments lay off a percentage of their temporary workforce that was hired, to work. And so that happens. And then the other thing that happens is you get people are just looking for new stuff. They're looking for new things to do. How am I going to put my life together coming out of the pandemic? That has a big influence on that. And there's Bob coming in from Roatan. Happy New Year, Bob. Hope you're getting some good diving in. And one of the things that's going to happen for sure is, we've seen this already, is that companies are not going to want people in their 60s and above, and in some cases in their 50s and above, coming back into the corporate offices. We see this a lot, where organizations have said, all right, we're going to bring our staffing back in, we're going to bring our employees back in, we're going to bring our freelancers back in, whatever they might be. but we're only going to bring them back in at the 50% level. We only want half of them back in. And so the people that are coming back into the workplace now, and this is, as the vaccine is rolling out and that kind of thing, are going to be the younger workers, the ones that are less susceptible to the virus and less susceptible to the the way it kind of unfolds as you deal with it. So that's going to happen. That's going to be happening. There'll be a bias in terms of not letting people in their 50s and 60s back into the workplace if they're employed there. They want them working from home. And, that's, it's sort of okay, but it's not really okay, because anybody that has ever had to work in a remote office for any period of time realizes that, if you're not where the action is, you quickly lose touch with what's going on in the office, and that can work to your disadvantage. And so those people might consider, because we do see a lot of ageism in corporate America. You get gray hair, or your forehead grows through your hairline, like mine did. You don't get the plum assignments. People joke about what maybe you need a nap or something like that. It all happens. And when there's the phrase "out of sight, out of mind" has an impact. And if I were in an employment situation now and my company was not allowing me to come back in, I would certainly want to take a look at freelancing as my plan B, because maybe it's going to work out. Maybe I'm going to be able to work from home. Maybe I'm going to get that gold watch in a few years. That could all be good. And maybe it's not. This is a big change. Maybe it's not. So time to take a look at that. One of the interesting things that came out of this is that many managers, owners of companies said, we'd be crazy to let our people work from home. We wouldn't get any work out of them. We couldn't maintain confidentiality of our documents and on our networks and all that kind of stuff. And all that has been disproven. All those people that were sort of wrong at the top of their voice have now been disproven. And most businesses and most managers think that their employees can work successfully from home. In fact, so much so that most companies now are having flexible employment policies. You've seen some like Google that say, hey, you don't have to come back into the office for at least another year. And then you've seen others that say, it's optional. You can come in a couple days a week. You can work from home. They just really opened up that whole idea of working remotely. And conversely, I think that's right. What that's opened up is the opportunity to use more freelancers, because a lot of companies have avoided freelancers in the past because they thought that they wouldn't have the measure of control that they needed. They realized, the smart ones have realized that's wrong. And what you're going to see is workforces that are much more blended than they were in the past. They're not going to just be all employees. They're going to be a combination of employees and freelancers. And particularly with the freelancers, the great thing that gives the owner of a business, and 60 to 70% of all businesses in the United States are small businesses, that gives them the flexibility to bring freelancers in when they need them. A lot of businesses have a seasonality to them. They might do trade shows a couple times of the year. They might have manufacturing peaks a couple times during the year, and they have to bring in people to help with promotions and all the things that go along with that. They have things certainly at tax time. And it's going to be a combination of individuals that are employees and individuals that are freelancers working in that environment. And so the fallout from that then is that businesses are being more flexible. They're saying, well, maybe we should look at this combination of putting teams together that have permanent employees to maintain the continuity of what's going on in the company, but balance that with the people that are loosely associated with the company that maybe we've hired in the past. They're aware of what's going on. They know who we are. They've worked with our people, and they're ready to do that. So we see a lot more of that happening as things take off in the new year. And certainly, we're just in the very beginning days of our vaccine. People are getting it now, mostly healthcare workers and educators, teachers, that kind of thing. And then it starts rolling out to the population in terms of, 75 years old and above, and 60 years old and above, and that kind of thing. So there'll be rings going out. And like everything through this crisis situation, there have been lots of things that people just didn't know how it was going to unfold. We don't yet know what immunity means. Does that mean that if you got the shot, you can come back to the office and no worries? Or does that mean you still have to be careful in some ways, that kind of thing? And that has yet to be seen. Nobody really has figured that out yet, where a lot of places are still locked down and not understanding really what is creating this. Some of the places that have had the most restrictive rules on masks are some of the states that have the greatest infection rates. So, there's a lot still not understood, and there is a lot to understand about vaccination and what does that mean for immunity, and what does that immunity mean for working together in office buildings and that kind of thing. So lots of things going on there. And certainly, what does it mean for density of people in restaurants? And what does it mean for wearing masks going to and from the office, or flying around, or that kind of thing? So lots of new things to consider and new things to figure out. So that's going to bring that flexibility. And the using of more freelancers, that's certainly one of the characteristics that this will create. Is if a business owner has 10 or 15 people previously working in their employee, and because of displacement and moving around during the pandemic, they may have lost 2, 3, 4 of their people, and they have to replace them as their business builds strength, which builds their revenues, really. And they're going to take a look at, how do I put that back together? Do I need full-time employees, or can I do with part-time or freelance employees that are working full-time for short periods of time rather than the whole period of time? So that's going to be something to consider. The businesses are going to be changing, and this is positive for baby boomer freelancers. They're going to be changing how they do business. They're going to have to, rewrite their operational plans in many cases. They're going to have to rewrite their policies for clients and customers coming into their physical properties. They're going to have to rewrite and train people on, if they're working from home, how to protect security. How do you do that? Do you need a VPN? Do you need some other secure router, or whatever it might be? And what data are you allowed to keep at home, and what data are you allowed to keep in the workplace, and that sort of thing? I've seen a few differences with my accountant. They now have gone to what's called an online vault. So instead of sending documents to them from time to time, everything now goes into the electronic vault. And so that gives anybody in the accounting firm, whether they're working from work or home, very secure access to documents like that, so they can get a hold of those and keep the ball rolling. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about what this means for you. Feel free to go ahead and put those um, in the chat window if you like, and see what um, those questions are. I know one of the very interesting things is that as we do go forward, I've just over the holidays we had a couple of our regular Tuesday night calls, but they were just kind of open forum, and then also talk to a number of our clients of one kind or another for various different reasons, and people are really much more focused. The thing I hear more and more is this plan B. In some cases, people lost their job and now they are freelancing because they lost their job or looking at freelancing. And then in other cases, they didn't lose their job, but they realize that they could have. They came this close, and they're thinking about, how do I put a plan B in place so if something upsets the apple cart, I have something to do. I'm not caught sort of flat-footed when that happens, and so that's a lot of the thinking process, I would say, that's driving our business now. Everybody realizes that going forward is going to be different, and it may be a little bit different, and it may be a lot different. And the need for employees, we've all worked for companies and organizations where, if you're a baby boomer, you've lived through a few times, like 9/11, when there were some big layoffs then, the economic crisis of 2008, the petroleum crisis back in the 70s, the financial crises in the 80s and 90s. So there's been lots of times in most of our lives where we had that experience of, the economy turned down, people lost their jobs, people were displaced, people moved to other areas. I remember one job I was in, I kept my job with a company, but I had to move in order to do it, and it was a huge disruption. In fact, I talked to somebody just a few days ago who is very talented in the IT area and getting products and big mainframe-based projects out the door. And they have done that successfully enough that they now don't move. And this person has people talking to them all the time about, hey, can you come work for us? We need you got the exact skill set, the background, the right computer languages, the right development processes and launching processes. And she's at the point where she just says, no, I'm not moving. If you can't figure out how to have me do this from home, I'm not going to do that. It's a huge, I think about over the years how many times that I moved to take advantage of a job. And that was for a time a great way to move up in different organizations and that kind of thing. But it really is asking somebody to disrupt their life in a major way, and maybe even more so now. I've just seen what seems like families are staying a little bit closer to one another now, and probably will continue for some number of years. And the idea of, you got a job, but when you get there, are they going to fire you in 3 months and then you got to move back, or that kind of thing? We see in the expat world what's happened over the last decade really is the 10 years ago, when an expat worker, say for a major company, Fortune 500 type company, went to work overseas, they moved the whole family, and it was very favorable to the moving employee, because usually that's considered a hardship to have to live in a country for a year or 2 or 3, and most of those expat assignments were like that. And they do a lot of extra things. They give you an extra housing allowance. They give you 1 or 2 trips a year back to your home country. And they call these packages. So these are convenience packages over and above your cost of moving there. Cost of living, but revolve around things like trips back to your homeland. And I know somebody in China actually had 2 drivers, because they didn't want their key employees navigating on the streets and that kind of thing. And, parking is very difficult there, and just a lot of things to think about. And so these packages, in addition to your salary, would very frequently be $150,000 to $250,000 worth of stuff. And what many companies found out is that about a third of all overseas placements of employees would fail, where the family got there, and for whatever reason, whether it was the primary person in the job or it was anybody else in the family, they moved back to their home country. So this was obviously very expensive because they spent a lot of money. They used to move furniture, all kinds of crazy stuff. And now what you see much more, and I was just talking to some friends in China, is they don't pay you to move there. They tell you this job is available, and if you want to pursue it, that you basically have to make that move on your own. They're not going to buy you housing. They're not going to pay for your drivers. They're not going to hire a maid for you, which many of these packages did in the past. You'd have a housekeeper and that sort of thing. So very different than what it used to be, but kind of in keeping with the gig economy. Right up until the shutdown, there were plenty of people that were more than happy to make the move and go find themselves in a better place. And so, we're seeing a lot of that, and would expect that to happen again. But every year with New Year's and changes in country activity and that sort of thing, you'd see organizations would take they have to take a different tone. They have to adjust their operations to these new initiatives and that kind of thing. And that's what we're seeing certainly now in the United States and Canada and really around the world with the pandemic, because there's still a lot of uncertainty about what's happening with that. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. Lots of good news ahead. I wanted to see if I could share a screen. Let me see if I can find this here. I just had a question from one of our members who wanted to know how Upwork was doing, how the stock market has been for Upwork in over the last year. And it was quite surprising. I hadn't looked at it in about a month, since before the holidays. Oops, let me get, that's not quite gonna do it. And of course, Upwork is the primary platform we teach freelancers how to work on. There are several others like Freelancer and Guru.com and Just Answer and a number of different ones there. But let me get the screen shared here. 1 second. Get it. Let's see. Okay, here we go. And so this is looking at Upwork. This is going back 1 year, and you can see that a year ago, Upwork was at $10 a share. It went down to about a low of $5 during the lockdown, which all the stocks really took a big dive I guess almost 6 really there. But now it's been trading up around $40 today, I guess is 37. But you can see this is a lot of companies don't have stock trend lines that look this good. They're 4 times at what they started out the first of the year at approximately, and very important to understand the new reliance that businesses and organizations are going to be taking on the on this gig economy. And I don't have any Upwork stock. It's not something I invest in. So I'm saying this from the perspective of somebody who's in my 21 years of freelancing, seeing lots of things come and go, and lots of market networks fall by the wayside. Upwork has really been around for about 21 years now, I guess, as well, or 23 years maybe now. And so lots of upside, lots of buzz around the whole freelancing thing and how that's going to feed into the marketplace in the future. So really, see lots of good things on the horizon. And as a lot of our uncertainties disappear, we don't know what's happening with the pandemic. It has shifted to now we've got a vaccine. People are getting vaccinated. It seems to be safe generally, and just all kinds of things that will enable business and government organizations to start planning again. So that's something to consider. So with that, have a happy new year. Look forward to lots of good free Facebook Lives over the coming year, and lots of getting to know maybe some of you that are in our programs, in our Tuesday night calls and that kind of thing. And also those of you that are not in our programs, you can find out more about those over at barefootconsultants.com. I'll pop a little link in the chat window here so you can head on over there. And with that, Happy New Year. We look forward to seeing you next Friday. Take care.